Hey everyone, I'm Mike Lowe. Thanks for tuning in. We are starting a new franchise with a different format than I've used in the past. We're going to be ripping through seasons pretty quickly here because we're going to be simulating the entire regular season each year and then just kind of earning the ability to play playoff games if we have some. So we might even go a stretch where we don't play any games because we're just kind of rebuilding a team or whatever. But I think we'll be able to get into the playoffs here probably pretty early in this franchise. Of course, they made the playoffs in real life last year, had a winning record, so this isn't necessarily a rebuild, but the format will be different than kind of the slow play franchise, which I still have going on, but this is going to be different. I'm familiar with the Knicks roster. We're ready to get moving as I just kind of play that role of GM and really just kind of tear through regular seasons, stopping to evaluate things maybe at the end of each month, the trade deadline, things like that. So we'll still be active, but it's going to be much quicker. So let's get into it. Season 1, Knicks Sim franchise. Before we jump into this episode, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Give the video a like or other videos on the channel a like. That helps a lot. Love seeing the comments too. I've had a ton of comments, really good questions, really good conversation going on there. So again, appreciate you being part of the community, for checking out the video and really trying to keep these sport games sim and a ton of fun. Thanks for being here. Before we start ripping through some games, I am using a real life draft class. This is how it imported in. I won't reveal which version I'm using or even what class I actually grabbed, but it is from the 2K share, so it's community built. As far as draft picks go, we have the potential to get 5 picks in this upcoming draft. It'll most likely just be 3, our first round pick and the 2 second round picks, of course, if we don't make any moves or anything like that. I think these protected picks probably will remain protected. I could see the Mavericks being in the top 10, and I could certainly see the Pistons being in the lottery for the draft. So most likely just gonna have our 3 picks here if nothing else changes. A quick look at the roster. There's really only 2, I guess, concerns we have this year. And of course, this is an opening day roster, so we still have Quickly. We're still gonna have Barrett, but Quickly is definitely one of our decisions. He's not eligible for an extension. 1 year left. Really good player. He's really kind of a consideration for the 6th Man of the Year award at the start of the season here. Hartenstein, also another player that we do like. We'll kind of see how things unfold. But these are also players we could either take with us for a playoff run, possibly move at the deadline, or maybe move for something bigger. So those are just some of the kind of early decisions. But really early on, let things play out. Let's see what this season tells us as opposed to what we tell about this season, because a lot can change here, as I mentioned before. A quick look at the opening night roster from Tom Thibodeau, our head coach. Brunson and Grimes in the backcourt, Barrett, Randall at the forward positions, and then Robinson at center. Again, we have Barrett on the team. We have Quickly on the team because this is opening night. Those trades happen in real life. They happened in December. We are in our own little opening night fantasy here, and it is in October. So we will see. Maybe there's a deal that we look at there. I mentioned Quickly could make some sense to move along with Hartenstein. We have a pretty deep bench though. Quickly, Hartenstein, and then rounding that out, Dante DiVincenzo, who I really like on this team. I like all these. I really like the top 9 here. Again, we don't have like any kind of like runaway total superstars. I think Brunson and Randall can definitely carry us this season. Really nice complementary players who can play good defense, a lot of kind of 3-and-D guys. And I think our bench is really deep. I think all of these players are pretty good, but it drops off there. If we have injuries, there is a bit of a drop off here, as you can see, as it starts to get a little bit lower. Evan Fournier is a player who had a pretty decent career, but is obviously in kind of the twilight of his career as a player that maybe we look to move here. And there's just not a lot of depth beyond that. So a couple injuries here could really change the outlook of this season. But let's stay positive. Let's see how the first month goes. Well, that's one heck of a start. The first month went really well. We're 14-4. 100% chemistry, and we've had 0 injuries. Now let me clarify how important that is with my slider settings. I have chemistry difficulty at 85, or I think the impact at 85. Anyway, it's much more difficult to keep chemistry. It's much more difficult to keep team morale in my settings. And also injuries, 100. We have it maxed out. There's a ton of injuries. They're a little bit less impactful because we're trying to limit the number of games that you'd see players playing, or the number of players that would be playing in like all 82 games or starting all 82 games. There's quite a few out of the box in this game, which is a bit of a statistical inaccuracy if you look at NBA league history. So to get through this first month with no injuries and chemistry where it is, we're 14-4. This is looking really good. I've had a ton of trade offers. None of them have really kind of, piqued my interest enough to really make anything move, so I won't really comment much on those, but the AI is definitely active. And that's pretty normal, I think, as a game starts to kind of set itself into, again, a video game is just a bunch of numbers. And so when it's looking at a roster, the game here is kind of taking over real life and saying, I need to kind of maneuver and get this kind of number alignment how I want it, which, of course, manifests itself in ways by trades from the AI teams and things like this. So this happens in every sports game. It's really the game just kind of settling, or if you want to think of it like as the dust settling on the game. Pretty normal stuff there, but they're being pretty aggressive. But we're kind of the opposite here. We're being pretty conservative in the beginning, just letting things play out, and it's working out so far, 14-4. A couple days later here, we are getting our first look at scouts. This is who I'm sending our scouts out to take a look at. I haven't made any adjustments, by the way, to staff this first season, just kind of staying in line with the CPU teams. We'll look at that all and reevaluate in the offseason. But really just kind of looking for players. I didn't really want to get too crazy around the top 5. I'm not really expecting to have a pick there with the season. We're off to a really good start at 14-6 right now. And again, any pick that we would have in the top 5 would be kept with the original team there. So you can always kind of look around the I guess, peripheral edges there for a player that might fall. But we're really looking for players that could be, kind of mid, late, first round, certainly second round picks that we think could be good fits. So that's where we're looking here with our first scouting trip. We are now on January 1st, and this month was not as kind for a number of reasons. RJ Barrett is out 6 to 8 weeks, and we went 4-10 in December. So a very, very different story than what we saw in the first month. Currently sitting at 18-14, so it's not a huge panic. Still chemistry 100%. And again, it's still a little bit early, so we still have the All-Star game coming up, of course, the trade deadline. We're going to start to look a little bit deeper here to see if we need to make any adjustments for this team and really keep a close eye on things here the next few weeks. We're now exactly halfway through the season, and we're 24-18. And that puts us at number 5 in the Eastern Conference right now. Checking in on the other teams, we have first-round draft picks. As expected, we're not going to be getting that Pistons pick, and it's looking really unlikely that we'll be getting Dallas's pick as well. So looking through the actual team stats at the midway point of the season, we definitely have enough data to look at. But again, it's midway through the season. Still lots going to change, especially when we consider that RJ Barrett's been hurt a lot of this year. He's out 6 to 8 weeks. He came back, and on the second game, he got hurt for another 2 weeks. When he's in our lineup, we're good. We saw that at the start of the season, 14-4. Since then, we're kind of hovering around 500 or so, give or take. We had a pretty bad December, as we saw. So it matters. We need RJ Barrett in the lineup. And as we go through and look here, we're still the 8th best team in the league. When we look at our points against, we're the 2nd best team in the league. So defense is playing really, really well, even with RJ Barrett out. We're kind of middle of the league. You don't see us here at the top or bottom of points per game. But we have the 3rd best point differential in the NBA. And that's concerning to me because it's like, well, what's going on here? We should be better. We should be better than the 5 seed in just the East, let alone the NBA. So it's really, really strange. As I started to kind of look it through, we're taking enough shots, so it's not like we're not getting opportunities. When we look at 3-point attempts, we again are 8th in the league. We're getting opportunities. But what I start to see here is like, oh, wow, we're missing a lot of those 3-pointers. And as I look through some of this, a lot of this stuff's just kind of league average. We're a really, really good rebounding team. Not a huge surprise there. I think we're the top overall rebounding in the league. We are. And so, looking at some other things, I don't think assists is terrible. Again, middle of the league. Steals, middle of the league if we're not seeing us at the top or bottom. Blocks per game, surprisingly, we're not higher there. And, turnovers across the league are pretty consistent, so really not a huge concern there. What stood out to me, though, other than the 3-point percentage, is when we look at our average bench points per game, we're 3rd worst in the league. Bench point percentage, we are 3rd worst in the league. So that tells me what we need to be considering here, RJ Barrett or not, is we need a 3-point shooter who probably is going to come off our bench. We need somebody who can come in and really just kind of light that fire from the bench and up some of that 3-point scoring, because now our point differential is going to continue to be good, but we're going to also score more points per game because our 3-point percentage will be higher, and that should kind of get us more in line with potentially being a top 5 or a top 3 team in the NBA. Now shifting focus over to team stats, there's a lot we can look at on these various screens. There's a lot of different menus. Huge kudos to the 2K team. There's so much data here. It's super, super interesting and really, really useful to your franchise. I'm going to call out some of the highs and lows. We're not going to go through every little detail here at the midway point, but certainly our team MVP at this point is Julius Randle. I've had a ton of trade interest, even some trades that you guys would be like, oh, you're crazy, you should take that trade. But we're really trying to take this franchise in a realistic way. I'm not trying to job the AI. I know he's 29, which in a video game is way too old for a lot of you. And I know he's got a contract that's longer than 1 year and all this other stuff. But he's a good player. He's our MVP. He's a reason why we have the potential to be a top 5 team, not just in the East, but in the NBA. We are sorting here by estimated wins average. And so, I'm sorry, estimated wins added. And so that's a stat very, very similar to WAR in baseball. And so he has accumulated 6.6 wins. And that's really far and above even number 7 in the league. That's a really, really impressive number. And it really kind of carries over as we look at player efficiency and then kind of overall efficiency. This, of course, is the one that kind of ties to like our team pace. So really across the league, he's actually been better. You could actually argue he's not as good of a fit on our team as he could be. But he has been really, really productive for us. He has just been a really critical part. He almost has as a pure point rating as high as our starting point guard, which to be fair is Jalen Brunson, who's not like your traditional ball distributing point guard, but still super, super valuable player. He's not an issue that we're worried about. However, we are pretty thin at power forward, so you can bet for next year it is something we need to keep an eye on. 2 other starters we can make a really quick note on. Mitchell Robinson here at center. He's ranked 17th when we look at estimated wins added. But really, if you're above a 15 here for efficiency, you're an above average starter. You're contributing. In my mind, you're not really a huge issue. It's not a huge concern. If I can get a bunch of guys kind of around that 15 range, that's fantastic, right? And of course, if we can mix in a superstar, even better. But Mitchell Robinson's doing his job. I'm not worried about it. There's a lot of different ways that you can add into your EWA. And he's obviously doing it with a lot of defense and rebounding, certainly not doing it with ball distribution, but that's why this stat matters. Like, that's okay. He's such a good rebounder that we can get away with him turning the ball over a little bit. He's still productive. I'd like to see that cleaned up because I'd really like to see that kind of maybe in that, 12 to 14 range. But he's still growing, 25 years old. He's still a guy who can continue to improve, and he's under contract for a few more years. Very similar when we look at the point guard position. Jalen Brunson, kind of same thing, right? Could be better, but he's in the top half of the league. He's not your traditional point guard, as I mentioned, only a 2.1 pure point rating, but he's getting the job done. Estimated wins for midway point of the year. And again, he's got some decent efficiency scores here. So not the problem. Could it be better? Sure, but not the problem. Let's actually get into a couple of the issues that we do see with this team. When we look at the 2 and 3 spots on this team, this is where we're going to see some issues. So same thing, we're sorting by EWA. We got to scroll a ways until we see a New York Knick. And it's Emmanuel Quickley, who is now starting for us, I guess, for the most part. He's had 24 starts. DiVincenzo, who's right below him for EWA, has 1 start. And then we have to go quite a ways down for our original starter at the 2 guard. And that is Grimes, who is somewhere. Wait, did I already pass him? Maybe I passed him. But he's down a ways. I think he's down even further. And so, Grimes, yeah, he's 56. He was hurt, to be fair. So, of course, that's going to impact your estimated win average. But still, you should be seeing these scores. These are bad, right? These are not great scores here. He has not been distributing the ball well as a guard at all. Even though he's a good 3-point shooter and it's something we're looking to upgrade, I don't know. I have to take a closer look at this to kind of see what he's doing here. But he's certainly probably being used too much for his productivity, and it's been pretty weak. Now, again, not a huge surprise because Emmanuel Quickley's a better player. And his numbers are, they're there. They're okay. I'd like to see it better for being an 81 overall. DiVincenzo has been a really good fit for the team. You can see the difference here between efficiency and then player efficiency rating, which is like the kind of like the team specific one. It's much, much better. So he's a really good fit. He's distributing the ball better than our starting point guard. But nonetheless, there's certainly something left to be desired at the 2 guard. It's a similar story when we look at small forward because we have RJ Barrett. And again, estimated win average, it's a cumulative stat. If you're hurt, you're not going to accumulate that stat. So that's a little skewed here that he's 27th. But really the concern here is, again, he's just not having a great year. It's not bad. But definitely want to see that above 15 for someone of his ability. Now, again, he's 74 overall, but it's because he's hurt. He's not obviously that bad. And so these are the spots that we're looking at. We're going to need to get somebody who can score some points at the 2 or 3 spot is my thought. Maybe somebody who can even, and not that this would be all three, but somebody who could either play, say 3 or 4 and maybe back up Randall a little bit, and then we could have him for next year, or somebody 2-3 who can be like a lights out 3-point guy. I'm talking an A+ rating, because Grimes is already A- and just not getting the job done. I want to really kind of push the envelope if we're going to make a move. I need to dig deeper into that, but at this point, let me know your thoughts in the comments section as I continue this video. I would be curious to kind of see if we align with our thinking of what we do, because I'm going to be looking at some ideas, and I'll take your feedback into the next season and that sort of thing, and we can kind of see how it all matches up. So let me know what your thoughts are. There's some good, there's some bad, and for me as the GM, there's some more work that needs to be done. And just a quick follow-up here. We really didn't even get into the game score, but yes, we're looking for guys to kind of be above like 10 or so. Again, there's a lot of stats here. We're not going to talk about them all, but I mean, the shooting guard, as I look deeper at this, I mean, DiVincenzo is at a 6.3. Grimes is a 5.9. I think Quickly's much better, but it's also some of it's just he's starting more games and that sort of thing. But what I'm sorting by here is effective field goal percentage. And it says this stat modifies regular field goal percentage by adjusting for the added value of made 3-pointers by counting them as 1.5 field goals, thus making it a more fair assessment of a player's ability to shoot the ball. When I sort by this ranking, our 3 shooting guards, 51%, that's 50th in the league for Quickly. If we go up to Grimes, 39th, and then just a little bit higher, DiVincenzo at 35. We have 3 shooting guards who are playing in games consistently, and they are all ranked 35th or worse in the league. That's what we need to address. We need to get somebody who's going to shoot the ball more consistently if we're going to make any sort of noise this season, especially if we're talking playoffs. Finally, one last note, have to call out Josh Hart, who has been stepping in admirably for the injured RJ Barrett. These are pretty good scores from a guy who was coming off the bench to start the year. He's up to an 81 overall, so this is a really nice surprise to see Josh Hart really stepping in and doing a pretty darn good job across the board. There's nothing here that's really too alarming, and again, that's a really, really good score. He'd be even higher if he was probably starting most of the year. So wanted to call him out there. Didn't want to just gloss over somebody who's been really important to kind of keeping our head above water and keeping us in a top 5 spot in the East. So with a couple weeks to go before the trade deadline, I've identified a couple players that I think could be good fits. I've explored a couple trade options. I'm going to let it go a little bit closer to the deadline to see, but I think Buddy Hield or Joe Harris from the Pistons could be a good fit. And again, I used the trade feature, the trade finder feature, I should say, and it pulled up a couple options there. I don't want to overpay for anything. I'm not looking to completely like revamp this roster or anything. We're just looking for a complementary piece that would be part of the rotation that can come in and score some threes without giving up future pieces. I would consider even trading Quickly, although I still think we can try to retain him. He's really good. He's just having a bad year. He's still 24 years old. I think we could try to retain him. Hartenstein is not really moving the needle. His contract's up. I don't think we'd bring him back. I can move him. And certainly Fournier is kind of just a massive contract we could look to move. And that's where the Joe Harris trade would make sense, because we would basically do Fournier and a 2nd-round pick in like 2028 for Joe Harris. That's kind of the trade I'm leaning towards. But we'll see. I'm going to let it kind of just shape up a little bit more here the next few weeks leading up to the trade deadline and through the All-Star game. We've made it to February 1st, and this is a reason why I like to wait for the trade deadline as long as I can, because just had a big string of injuries. Guys getting hurt, guys coming back, guys getting re-hurt. And Mitchell Robinson out 4 to 6 weeks, DiVincenzo out 2 to 4, and then Josh Hart out 1 to 2. But RJ Barrett is back, so it's, again, kind of just rotating kind of musical chairs, I guess, with some of the injuries here. But none of these are still where we need to like kind of revamp the entire roster or anything like that. So just keeping an eye on things, still kind of moving forward with the game plan. We've gone 4-2 since we finished off February here, so no reason to panic. Just the one All-Star for the New York Knicks is Julius Randle, his 3rd time being an All-Star selection. So we're at the trade deadline, and it's time to make this move. Since January 1st, we're 12-6. And when I sorted just by all players in the league who had an A+ 3-point rating, I would try to search for trades. A lot of teams said not interested. And then I was also looking for a trade where we weren't really giving up a whole lot. And this is the trade that makes the most sense. We still have some injuries. We have guys in our top 9 rotation who are like a 73 or 72 overall. Joe Harris is going to play. And if he doesn't play a whole lot, maybe in the playoffs, that's not the worst thing. It's going to add some depth. It just makes a lot of sense. Yeah, we're losing a future 2nd-round pick, but I'm okay with it. Joe Harris, of course, is a guy who can shoot the 3, and I think it's going to be a really nice role player for us. We're not locking anything in. It's a 1-year deal, huge money, but so is Fournier. So we're just kind of swapping bad contracts. We throw them a second-round pick, and we get ourselves some depth for the playoffs. And before we continue on here with the rest of the regular season, you can see what the lineup looks like here. And we can actually even scroll down and see where Joe Harris fits in. He's going to play, guys. He's 8th on our chart here, and he will certainly help out, add some depth as we wait for some injuries to come back. Mitchell Robinson, DiVincenzo. So again, he may not be in the mix when everyone's fully healthy, but that's been pretty rare this season. It's always nice to have some depth for the playoffs. Well, we are 2-0 since the Joe Harris trade, but perhaps our biggest injury yet. Jalen Brunson goes down 2 games after the trade deadline, out 8 to 10 weeks. It's a huge chunk of the season. It's not the end of the world. He'll be back for the playoffs, it looks like, but we don't have a ton of depth there, so I'll be curious to see what Thibodeau does. Does DiVincenzo start playing at point guard, or are we going to maybe see Quickly move over there a little bit, maybe try to redeem himself? So we'll see how it goes, but again, I think we'll still be in good shape, just kind of try to get healthy for the playoffs. We've now made it to April 1st, and we're 40-34 with 8 games left to play, and the Eastern Conference is tight. We only have 3 teams who've actually clinched a playoff or at least a play-in berth for the 2024 playoffs. So the 76ers are going to be the top seed in the conference. Miami has secured a spot, and Cleveland's at least secured a play-in game. So this is really tight. We still have, we could still make some noise here. I don't know if we get up as high as 3 with only 8 games left. It's possible. Certainly 4 is in play, but so is missing the playoffs. I mean, there are some teams who are really, really close here, and maybe missing the playoffs is probably a little hyperbole there, but I think we could certainly fall more than we could climb here. So there's still a lot to keep an eye on here. Of course, we're always trying to get healthy, and we're just going to have to see how this last kind of week and a half goes here for the Knicks as we get ready for the playoffs. We are getting pretty healthy at the right time, just a few day-to-day injuries here. While we're here, just kind of showing you towards the end of the year, again, I have injuries really, really high. So as we're looking at players who were out for the season, there were a handful of players who at some point or another went out for the whole season here. If we look at kind of the best player who's hurt at this particular time, again, it's a bit random because we have it could be any time in the season with a week or 2 or 4 weeks or whatever. But I guess the highest rated player, Donovan Mitchell, is the highest rated player who's out for the season. So just want to show you the injury's working. Might even be a little too high. I might maybe bump it down to 90 or 95. I have it at 100 right now, and it's been a lot of fun really just kind of balancing it out. A lot of players maybe miss a game or 2 here and there, but it's happening throughout the season. So I kind of like it. It makes it much more realistic, and it's really going to help our statistics as we look at this at the end of the season. 1 game left to go in the season. I believe it's against the Bulls. And it's an important one. We could still finish as high, I guess, as 3 technically, and we could finish as low as 7. So it matters all the way to the end of the year. Really, really tight. Let's see what happens. So we've reached the end of the season. We've simulated the whole thing. As I mentioned at the start of the episode, we're going to be playing the playoff games. We did win our last game of the year. So before we look at those standings, let's go through and look at some of the awards here. So Ja Morant gets the MVP here, so exciting to see him get his, I believe, first MVP. And as we look at the All-NBA first team, not a huge surprise. You're seeing some names there you'd probably expect to see. No New York Knicks, though. Second team, we do get a New York Knick, Julius Randle, so that's exciting to see there. If we look at the third team here, again, a lot of familiar names there. All defensive first team, get a look there. No New York Knicks, though. Defensive team, also no New York Knicks, but something we can look to maybe improve next year. We still have really high ranked defense, at least halfway through the season when we look, so we'll have to take another look at that. All rookie first team, some familiar names there as well. All rookie second team, only 3 players there for some reason, not quite sure. I'm guessing that's just with qualification, probably some certain threshold that's needed there. And yeah, let's see how things look here now with the last game of the season to see how it went. We'll look at the bracket in a second, but let's just look at standings because that's the screen we were looking at before. So we end up 5th. Not a huge surprise. I think the highest we got this season was 3. 5th or 6th, maybe the lowest. So we kind of finished where we'd expect to be. We will take a look at some of the deeper stats here and kind of break things down before the start of the playoffs and try to get some, I guess, a feel for the expectations for the Knicks here in the playoffs. All right, well, we're pretty close to wrapping up the first episode here. Again, I will be playing all of the playoff games. So episode 2 is going to be focused on just gameplay. It'll be a recap of the playoffs, whether that's 4 games or whether that's 28 games or whatever it's going to be. planning to play all of them, so I don't have an exact estimate of when that's going to be out. I'm also playing Madden on PC. I ended up getting a new PC that I built. That was super exciting. Anybody wants to talk about that in the chat? Huge shout out to Bleeding Red on the Madden community, who has been super helpful in getting that thing put together for me. But a couple more things here to take a look at. We do draw the Toronto Raptors in the first round. They had the same record as us. The 3 through 6 seed in the East had the exact same record. I'm not exactly sure how the tiebreakers work in the NBA, but nonetheless, we will be on the road there. So we're going to have to take at least one in Toronto. Of course, we got the play-in games happening here too. So I can just give you kind of just a quick look around the NBA playoff tournament structure here, and you can just kind of see the teams that were able to squeak in that 9 and 10 spot. And again, just kind of looking at the overall tournament, that's what we're looking at there. So yeah, we're going to have to see. I think it could be, we can make a run. We were a little bit, I think we were 2 games worse than our record in real life last year, so a bit of a regression there. But let's see if we can make a little bit more noise this year in the playoffs. So again, be looking for episode 2, which will be focused on the playoffs, that gameplay. Then of course we'll get into the off season. I know some people may be curious, just as a little teaser there of kind of what we're looking at here. Prospect scouting, I like to just kind of sort by the Sporting News big ranks here. You'll notice the top players aren't scouted because, well, I don't plan to get one of them. I don't want to waste a scouting trip on them. If they fall to me, great, I'll take one of them. It's probably not going to happen, though. We're going to just really have the first round draft pick. I don't expect the Pistons to not be a lottery pick, and I don't expect Dallas to not be in the top 10, maybe, but either way, these guys won't be there. And so we're really looking, we could definitely have some opportunities here. You can see we've heavily scouted point guards, but really I don't focus on just a position. I focus on players that I like. And so we could use a point guard. Sure, there's not a ton of depth on the team behind Brunson. Certainly could use a shooting guard, but you see I didn't force the issue here because there's just not a lot of good shooting guards in this draft for whatever reason. So unfortunately, I don't know, we might have to go another direction. We didn't scout a ton of small forwards, same kind of thing there. There just weren't a ton of guys that I like. Luckily, we're pretty happy there with RJ Barrett. Power forward and center, we were a little bit heavier. It just kind of worked out as a position of need. We need some depth. We're going to need an answer for Julius Randle, who's getting up there. He's going to be 30, I think, next season. And center, same kind of thing there. Hartenstein's probably going to be gone. So just kind of looking around at a few players there at center. So we'll talk all about that in potentially the next episode. It depends how many games I end up getting, or that would be, you know, the episode after that. So again, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video. All of that YouTube-ish stuff. I'm on Twitter at MikeLow47. I appreciate you watching, and I will see you next time.